The Great Gospel of John, revealed from the Lord through the inner word to Jacob Lorber. Volume 5, Chapters 73 and 215. Jesus elucidates the true work, seeking God and oneself. Chapter 73. How to love God above all. The true work of man that is pleasing to God. Says Roklus, "But Lord and Master, how can I achieve it to love with all my might God, the invisible eternal Spirit, above all? For it seems to me that the heart of man is too small and incapable of loving beyond measure the infinite and eternal Spirit of God, whom one cannot possibly imagine. It is easy to love one's neighbor, but to love God, who is so infinite, is certainly an extremely difficult matter for us insignificant men. What must one do if one wants to love God above all?" Say I, nothing could be easier in the whole world. Let man contemplate the works of God, his goodness and wisdom, and conscientiously keep his commandments. Let him love his poor neighbor as himself, and he will thereby love God above all. However, if you are unable to form a concept of God touching your heart, look at me, and you will have before you that forever valid and lasting form, which alone will portray to you your God and Creator. For God is also a man, but the eternally most perfect one, both in and out of himself. If you see me, you see everything. Did you also understand me in this? Roklus says, "Lord and Master above all things, now I have everything and I want to be your servant. But now let me move in peace, for I am not worthy to while longer with you." Say I, whoever has the inner peace departs in peace wherever he may go. Now that you have gained the inner peace, you do go in peace if you leave. However, you can certainly stay with your companions for a while, and you will hear many a thing which will be of benefit to all of you. It is indeed already late, and the sun, which has lit up the earth during the day, has reached the edge of the mountains and will soon disappear. And we all can say that this day has been well spent. We have worked hard, and in a few hours achieved more than mere human hands would have achieved in years. And let him who works also eat and strengthen his limbs. You also have worked and shall eat with us. Therefore, you may stay here and have evening meal with us. Roklus says, "Lord and Master above all things, what have I only done with my companions that could be called work? Speeches and opinions and exchanging experiences is all that we have done here, otherwise standing quite idly, and that will not be called work, will it?" Say I, wherever and whenever a man has truly worked for the salvation of his soul, there and then he has performed the greatest work in a true and most unselfish manner. For a true activity serving the benefit and salvation of one's own soul totally precludes all other self-seeking activity anyway, because selfishness and self-love completely block the love for God and the neighbor. Whoever cares materially for his body seeks the treasures of this world, burrows in matter, and thus buries his soul in judgment and in death. Even if such a man had worked all day long in the field, using plough and hoe with such diligence that by evening he is drenched in his own sweat, in my eyes, he was nevertheless an idler and a lazy servant for the field of the kingdom of God. For whoever does not work in the right and proper spirit within God's order for the true goal set for him by God, surely does not work for the temporal and eternal benefit of his neighbor either. And he does not deem it worth the effort to seek and more closely recognize God. A person who makes no effort to find and truly recognize God is even less inclined to exert himself for the benefit of his neighbor. And if he does something for him, he does it only for his own sake, hoping that the neighbor might be able to return the favor several times over. Yet you have now sought God and yourself, and found God and yourself. And behold, that was a correct activity of yours. And I tell you that you have now done more in these few hours than otherwise in all the rest of your life. And therefore you can now remain here as well. Take a good rest and eat an evening meal with us. Chapter 215. The Lord's Task and Teaching. Say I, in order to show you the issue with a few words, I say to you, my task and teaching consists simply in showing man where he really came from and what he is, and in pointing out his destiny, which will be fulfilled in accordance with the fullest and most evident truth. Already the Greeks, that is, the sages, said, the most difficult, important, and highest knowledge is the greatest possible degree of self-knowledge. And behold, exactly this is my concern, for without this cognition, it is impossible to recognize a supreme deity as the cause of all coming into existence, being, and permanency. But whoever does not recognize this and does not direct his life, his senses, and striving towards this one true purpose in life, in order to recognize himself and the supreme deity as the eternal first cause of all being and growing, is as good as lost. For just as a thing devoid of an inner, incessantly growing and more consolidating and permanent consistency soon disintegrates, and as that which it formerly was ceases to exist, so also a man who is not fully at one with and within himself as well as God. Man can achieve this only by fully recognizing himself, and consequently God as his first cause, and then, in accordance with such knowledge, becoming active in his whole life sphere. Once a man has reached this maturity and consistency within himself, he has also become a master over all the forces emanating from God, and through these, spiritually and materially, also a lord over all creatures, and is then in and for himself no longer destructible through any force, and thus has gained life eternal. And behold, that is now the summary of my whole new teaching, which, however, in the basis of basics, is actually the very oldest teaching since the beginning of man and this earth. It has only been lost through the idleness of humanity, and is now given as if new again by me as the lost original Eden. Ye then, it is they, to the people who have good will.